Hello and welcome back to Wake Up and Dream for another episode. We are so excited for this one, guys. We're going to get to know our own Kelly Armstrong a little bit better. So we want to, for this episode, we want to dive into one of her favorite quotes and just have her explain a little bit about why this quote is so important to her. So the quote that Kelly loves is, "What if life isn't happening to you, but what if life is happening for you?" So I want to just dive right in, and Kelly, tell us a little bit about this quote and what it really means to you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Sarah, so much. And yes, I could go down 100 different roads with this quote, but a little bit about my background a little bit. We have one little boy who's 10 years old. His name is Jace, and he's absolutely amazing. We wanted a bigger family, but we ended up experiencing secondary infertility, and it was unexplained. And that's a big part of who I am in my adult life and the experiences that I went through, that we went through as a couple, and are still going through as a family to this day. There's a lot to navigate. There's a lot of emotional roller coasters with infertility. And I went to a dark place for 2 or 3 years. At the tail end, we tried for almost 6 years for baby number 2. And at the tail end, it was just exhausting. Anybody who's ever experienced it, it's heartbreaking, especially when it's unexplained and there's no answers. You tend to just spiral, if you will, for a lack of a better word, and all these doubts about being a mama, and what you can provide for the family, and our little boy who's dying to have a sibling, and we couldn't give him one. And so through growth and self-development, because I'd hit rock bottom, I didn't want to be who I had become through all of that anymore. I was tired of being sad and depressed and not 100% there for my son. That it was time. It was time to do some changing. It was time to just figure it out. So I started reading more. I started praying differently. I also started to shut down a little bit from social media, because there's so much information on there, positive and negative, and you can get wrapped up in that, and you can start comparing yourself to other families and what they're doing and what other women are doing and what they're wearing and all the things. And so I was very intentional with my time, and this quote surfaced because of all the pain that I was going through. And this hit me on a day that I was not expecting it, but I was also ready to receive it. And I think that was very important for me and my journey, that what if life isn't happening to you? Because we all feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is me and this is my life, and she gets so much more. But what if it's happening for you? What if you could use this somehow in the future for somebody else, for yourself, for your son, in my case? And that's kind of what it became. I focused on it every day. I read it. I had it on sticky notes. I had it on my phone screensaver to just give me that reminder. I think that was a healthy step to remembering, yes, this has been extremely hard, and I would never wish it on anyone, but it has propelled me into something bigger today, for sure, because I kept thinking, what if life is happening for me and not to me? I don't have to be a victim, but I can help and share in some way.
Wow, Kelly, I have chills. In this quote, I feel like this quote, I'm not going to ever look at the same either now, having you having shared your story. At what point in your journey did you like to discover this quote and start having it on Post-its and having it on your phone? Like, how far into your journey was it that you
Right. So I had the infertility process, season, if you will, was about 6 years. And then the last 2.5 of that, I was just at my bottom. And then I would want to say 6 months after that, So, it was, um,
And this
it all
really was the
happened.
thing that kind of helped propel you to the next stage of your
Yes, and it
healing?
helped me receive other things in my life differently. Even when people say things that are trying to be helpful, but weren't, when they, would make suggestions of, well, maybe it's not God's plan, or have you thought of adoption? Or, I mean, there's just some what they think is kind words, but not helpful when you're in the trenches. But I kept remembering this because of working through what they were saying, or what I was reading, or the new Bible study group I was in, the new book I picked up, or even a coffee date with a friend. She would say something and I would just start to receive it differently. I wasn't in that icky, lonely place. I was doing the work to move forward, because I wanted life to happen for me, not to me. And it was taking that victim piece out, I think, that was super helpful.
Kelly, your story is so incredible because I think so many women, like, they stay in that place feeling like nobody can relate. They stay in, like, the victim mentality. So,
Mm.
what role, like, did your faith play in that? Because you'd
Mm.
mentioned, Bible verses. Like, just give us a little insight into that piece.
Yes, for sure. So I have a mentor in Christ, if you will, that I met before I got pregnant with Jace. And she was such an inspiration to me. She guided me through so much. And we had a coffee date one day, and she asked me what my prayer life looked like. How are you praying for baby number two? What do you do? What do you say? And we got into details, and she recommended this book called A Better Way to Pray by Andrew Wommack. And instead of pleading and begging for what you want or need, it was more of praising God in the present, and knowing that He has a plan for you, and that it was meant for you and meant for not only you, but your experiences to be shared with others. And just being that light and learning how to be thankful in the moment, because we do get wrapped up in, and I've said victim, but it is like, you just feel like, why is this happening? But it just gave me peace to be able to create a stronger relationship with God. I didn't know you could do that. I thought He was just someone to pray to for your needs and your wants. But I dove into the deep desires of my heart and what He was putting on mine, and praying differently, talking to Him as almost a person, like if He was one of you, and just talking it out, because He already knows your heart, but He wants you to release it, and He wants to hear it from you. He already knows, but He wants you to say it. And so reading that book and putting it into action, because that's one thing that I've also learned. Like, you can read all the things, you can read 29 quotes a day, you can read all the books, but if you don't put it into action and do it with repetition, nothing changes. But that was a big part, was learning how to pray differently. And still we don't have baby number two, but it's given me peace that He does have something bigger for me and for our family.
Mm.
So like with that, like it just, trying to wrap my head around your whole story and how you must have felt during those times, like during like the darkest of your times throughout
Mhm.
the journey. How would it feel for you now to be able to offer support to others? Like, I feel like that's part of a healing process as well, is just being able to share your story, relate to people
Mhm.
going through it. And I mean, it could be as simple as, just meeting somebody who happens to share their journey, and then having that common connection where you guys can, talk
Mhm.
about it, talk through it, and offer support to each other. Like, what does that look like for you?
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that, what if this like is happening for you? there's more there. Like, so what has this given you?
Totally. Yes, because I feel like the infertility world, it's kind of hidden. It's like in a cave and no one really talks about it because we, as those that are going through it, don't know who to talk to because we feel surrounded by others who have 2, 3, 5 kids, or you don't know if someone has experienced, because even if those women have 3 or 4 kids, there might have been a miscarriage in between a couple of them, but nobody knows because nobody
Or for
talks
someone
about
like
it.
you, where it's like a secondary infertility journey. So some assumptions might be made by people that aren't as knowledgeable about different
Mhm.
struggles.
Correct.
That you already
Mhm.
have one kid, why are
Oh,
you not
right.
having a second? And like how to like
Oh,
manage those types of questions. And I feel like
mhm.
you living through that, like, I feel like is invaluable to others that are a few steps behind in their process.
Yeah, and that's kind of where this quote has taken me, is to how my life and what it has happened to me, how I can give back and help other women. But that didn't come on day one, right? So I had to do the work, but through, um, like I said, coffee dates with friends and Bible studies and being a part of like business academies where you work on your growth and self-development, that sharing your story doesn't have to be scary, but you just have to find that community where you don't feel judged and you feel safe. And that's actually what has inspired me to start a coaching business where I can help women going through their journey, and in particularly those kind of towards the end that are ready to give up, but they're not sure that they should because society thinks they should keep trying, or now adoption's the next step or whatever. But that's an emotional trauma for a lot of us women who don't want to fail, who don't want to be judged, or feel inadequate, that why couldn't I make this happen? But at a certain point, you have to find you again. And you have to feel that that's okay. It's okay. And I want to provide a community for women to come and just have that safe place. I want to be an umbrella of safety and peace for them, because I want them to know that they are seen and cared for. And I want to hold that umbrella under the big storm until I know that they feel strong enough to hold the umbrella for themselves, and then in turn hold it for someone else. And by sharing your story, it's so important to just release it. But there is that disconnect of sharing it with someone who hasn't experienced it. And so that's why it's been kind of put on my heart and tugging at my heartstrings for a while now. And I'm putting it into motion and creating and just a community for women to be coached and to just, I want to put an arm around somebody, even if it's through social media and a Zoom meeting, to just create that environment for them and somebody to talk to who's been there and gone through it in the trenches and now is creating something better for other women.
Kelly, what an amazing transformation, honestly, that has taken place inside your heart and soul and mind. When I think about, the burdens that people carry, and it spins in their mind. It spins and spins, and then it goes down in their heart, and they feel all the feels, but because they haven't shared it, it oftentimes can even be magnified, right? I mean, it can appear bigger than it in actuality is.
Right.
And you're going to be such an amazing resource to help those women have that umbrella of safety to feel brave enough to share their story and get it
Right.
out of their head. Get it, I love to journal, and that's
Me
oftentimes
too.
part of my process of just getting the junk out, the raw, ugly feelings that you're almost judging yourself for having? Did you have that?
100%. Oh, huge guilt that I couldn't provide a sibling for my son. Guilt that I was depressed. And once I realized how yucky I was not as present with my family, with my friends, taking it out on my husband on a rough day. But I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I really wish that when I started my infertility journey, that when you go into a doctor and they're giving you all these options, I've been saying, and this has been put on my heart, and this is kind of what catapulted me into this as I was journaling and figuring all this out, was I wish the nurse or the doctor would have pulled me aside and said, Kelly and Todd, or Kelly or whoever, this might be really difficult. You might get pregnant our first try. It might take years. I don't know. But if you have that emotional struggle, if you're feeling the pain and the sadness, here's somebody you can talk to. Give me a piece of paper with a therapist, a counselor, a coach, a mama who's been there, just a list of people, of somebody who's been there. And I didn't have that. I didn't know it was going to be so hard.
Mm.
And it might have looked different, but going back to the quote, that it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And I've evolved and I've grown, and I think I've shown my son some strength and the faith in God and all the things that are so important in life. And that's what I want to provide for these women too, is just that safe place. They have somebody to go to now, and they can share and they can feel loved and not judged.
Mm.
Kelly, I absolutely, well, two things. My next question to you was going to be about the support that you did or did not get. So you kind of read my mind in sharing that piece, because I feel, doctors in general are very like by the book, and that piece of paper could do so much and it's not provided, which to me is just, it blows my mind that it's not the, I don't know, that they don't think to incorporate that in their care. And then the other thing that you touched upon, I was going to ask about the umbrella, which I love that you are using that to represent what you're offering, because I feel like it's such a nice visualization of what they need, people struggling with this right now, what they need and how you can help provide it. And then you also mentioned and how they can hold the umbrella for someone else. So it's almost like you'll be offering support. I'm going to get choked up. Offering support to these women that need it, but also giving them tools to help them go beyond where they are, which they might not even be able to see yet.
And they won't, and that's okay.
Others. Yeah. And I think that's just such an incredible thing that you're able to do, and that you're able to take from this experience that was just incredibly, incredibly difficult.
Yes, I feel so blessed and so thankful that God has used me in this way, and all the things that I've been through, even before marriage, right? That I've just kind of taken along the way with journaling and meditation and all the things to really find my purpose, find how I can help more women just get out of the shoulds, do more. It's time to wake up and dream again. It's not just what you're going through. That isn't who you are, but those situations and those experiences can really make a huge difference in your journey and becoming who you were meant to be, plus helping others. I think there's such a gift in helping people, and especially women, just be all that they can be and not get stuck in the rut of the shoulds and the mundane things of your everyday schedule and all the things. So I'm excited to provide that for anyone and everyone who wants to share or really needs to dig deep in their journey of infertility. And I would welcome anybody to follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm going to start there with just informational posts, getting my story out there so they can be comfortable with who I am, and create that know, love, and trust through just to know that they have someone, a companion to go through. So I'm at Kelly Armstrong Official, and feel free to connect with me there, ask questions, and I'm happy to be their umbrella, because I know what it's like to feel closed and yucky and sad, but it's time to slowly open that umbrella, and I'm here for those amazing women.
Kelly, I know that God doesn't waste a thing, and your journey it was for you so that you could be that umbrella for so many women and relate and hear their heart. It's I'm excited. I mean, maybe excited is the wrong word, but I'm excited for the impact that your community is going to provide, the healing, the hope that they're not able to see maybe right now in their journey. Wow. So if you are listening and this resonated with you and you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to connect with Kelly, check out the show notes. All of her contact information and how to connect with her will be there, as well as ours. So you want to definitely check out the show notes. And we're excited to see this umbrella open before our very eyes, Kelly, and the people just start to flood in and find comfort and shelter and peace and just the heart that you bring to this coaching ministry business, whatever you want to call it.
I love it. I love it.
It's actually so beautiful. So we are so blessed. Thank you so much for sharing your story today, Kelly.
I love you, gals. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And we will see you all next time. So be sure to tune in next Thursday for our next episode.
Thank you.